Good afternoon. You're watching Businesswolrd Live. I'm Jess De Los Santos. Let's take a look at how the local bourse closed today, Friday. Okay, let's change things up a bit this time around. Let's take a look at MREIT first. This, of course, after they debuted earlier in the morning. Of course, IPO price was set at 16 pesos and 10 centavos a piece. They opened at 16 and 12, but they're capping off their first day at 16 pesos and 70 centavos a share. That is up 3 and 7 tenths of a percent from their opening price. Megaworld's REIT, of course, seeks to raise 15.29 billion pesos. It is a fifth REIT on offer here in the country. They are at least putting on the table 844.3 million shares with an over-allotment option of 105.5 million shares. Earlier in our broadcast, we had Michael Enriquez, the president and CIO of Sun Life Investments. He says it's a good move to bring down the prices here for MREIT to give investors something to chew on. He's saying that they are estimating the yield to be somewhere around 6%. They are positive on MREIT because their portfolio of office buildings is catering to BPOs, 100% of which are leased out. He's saying as well, one other good thing here for MREIT is that they have presence outside NCR, particularly in Iloilo, talking about their portfolio here on the in the pipeline here for MREIT is expansion. At least in the next 2 years, they are seeking to acquire offices and commercial assets in Uptown Bonifacio. Those will be injected into MREIT's portfolio by 2023. That's going to be in addition, at least, to the 100,000 square meters that they will be adding by year end. According to its president and CEO, Kevin Tan, it's going to beef up their rental revenues at the same time grow distribution yields for investors. Again, MREIT ending the day at 16 pesos and 70 centavos a piece, up by as much as 3 and 7 tenths of a percent. Its parent, Megaworld, is also on a 3-day winning streak here, up by 1 and 3/4 of a percent to 2 pesos and 90 centavos a piece. The mall operator here is bucking the sell-off among property developers today, a number of which plunged. This as government keeps existing level 4 in Manila, but with capacity already expanded by 10%. For indoor establishments like restaurants, personal care, and religious services, gyms likewise also reopening at 20% capacity, at least for the fully vaccinated. Looking at this chart right here, you'd see a number of our property developers ending the day in the negative territory. You have the likes of SM Prime down 0.6%. Ayala Land likewise also lower by 2.5%. Food operator Jollibee also in the red, down 1.5%. Hotel operator Bloomberry also in the negative territory, down by 1.5%. These stocks keeping track of the sell-off in the main index here, which for today is down 0.4% to 6,923. It is down 0.4% on a weekly basis as well. But one stock here is routing that decline. I'm talking about Semirara. It has advanced for the third day today, increasing by 6 and 0.2% to 22 pesos and 30 centavos a piece. The country's largest coal producer continues its rally as China's ordered their state-owned energy companies to secure supplies at all costs. That sent coal stocks across the region on a frenzy, but did not bode well for renewable energy producers. Such is the case for FGen, which today ended the day in the negative territory, down 3.4% to 32 pesos and 80 centavos a piece. Here are other headlines we're keeping our eyes on. After a sharp decline in August, the country's factory output rebounded last month as quarantine measures were loosened in Metro Manila. Local factories returned to expansion mode in September, pushing the PMI to 50.9 from 46.4 in the previous month. A reading above 50 signifies expansion. This marks the strongest jump in factory output since March. IHS Markit considered the uptick marginal as it landed slightly above the 50 mark, separating growth from a slump. Following the lockdown in August, IHS Markit noted that firms resumed stockpiling in September in anticipation of greater demand. However, production volumes continued their sixth-month decline as pandemic restrictions set back production. Still, the decline was softer compared to that of August. The BSP reports that more foreign portfolio investments or hot money returned in August, reversing the net outflow the month before. BSP Governor Ben Jokno said hot money turned to a net inflow of $11.51 million in August, a turnaround from the net outflows of almost $400 million last year. Foreign portfolio investments jumped by 21% to $806 million in August from more than $660 million in the same month last year. This comes on the back of the country announcing its exit from a recession 2 months ago with a GDP growth of 11.8% in the second quarter. The BSP said about 65% of investments came mainly from the UK, the US, and Singapore, among others. Investments were placed in securities listed on the stock exchange, mainly in food, beverage and tobacco companies, property companies, holding firms, banks, and transportation services. And the Bangko Sentral also says that inflation likely breached their target in September, coming in between 4.8 to 5.6%. It realized the higher end of that estimate would be the highest inflation in about 3 years, or after the 6% print logged in November 2018. But even the lower end of the range is already beyond the 2 to 4% goal of the BSP this year. Recall that we're already coming off a 4.9% inflation in August as food prices rose sharply due to recent typhoons. For this month, BSP Governor Ben Jokno attributed the projected jump in inflation to the rising prices of fuel, utilities, and food. But BSP Deputy Governor Francisco Daquila said inflation will likely taper off and come in within the BSP target in November. Just last week, the Bangko Sentral kept the key policy rate at a record low of 2% to support economic recovery, despite higher inflation expectations. The proposed national budget for next year, worth over 5 trillion pesos, has hurdled the House of Representatives. Marian Enriquez has the rest of the story.
With 238 members voting in the affirmative, 6 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, House Bill number 10153 is hereby approved on third and final reading.
It was almost 11 o'clock in the evening when the House of Representatives approved on third and final reading the proposed 5.024 trillion national budget for 2022. This came a day after President Duterte certified as urgent the passage of the bill. There were no major amendments. Bayan Muna Representative Carlos Zarate, during his Torno and Contra speech, said that the 2022 budget bill apparently lacks funds for COVID-19 response. There were no allocation for the benefits of healthcare workers and even budget cuts to some hospitals.
Ang nakalaan sa budget sa health ay 203.1 billion lang. Samantala, ang para sa defense at public order and safety ay nasa 508.7 billion. Ano ba ang pangunahing kalaban natin ngayon, Madam Speaker? Hindi po ba ang pandemya?
His colleagues from the Makabayan bloc said that the bill has been railroaded again, failing to prioritizing the health sector and providing financial aid for Filipinos reeling from the effects of the pandemic.
Sadsad sa lupa ang ating ekonomiya. Kasalukuyang 3.88 milyong Pilipino ang walang trabaho dahil sa kaliwat ka ng lockdown. Ngunit ang mga malalaking negosyante, bilyonaryo at crony ng Pangulo ay nagpapakasasa sa 30% na paglago ng kanilang yaman. Nasaan ang ayuda sa mahihirap?
Paano po natin masasabing para ito sa recovery budget kung 13 sa ating mga mayor na DOH, specialty at GOCC hospitals, kasama ng East Avenue Med Center, San Lazaro Medical Hospital, Philippine Children's Medical Center, Lung Center, NTTI, ang may kaltas sa kanilang mga pondo. Madam Speaker, kasama na po dito ang 170 million na budget cut ng RITM.
However, House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco underscored the importance of passing the 2022 General Appropriations Act on time to avoid a reenacted spending program.
The swift and smooth passage of the proposed 2022 national budget shows our collective commitment and resolve to help our kababayans and economy build back better and hasten economic recovery through the effective delivery of government services.
The House leadership earlier set September 30 as the target date to pass the bill, in time for the last session day before the chamber adjourns for the filing of certificates of candidacy. The session will resume on November 8th. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
It's day one of the week-long filing of certificates of candidacy for the 2022 polls, and a few early birds have already filed their COCs. One of them is presidential aspirant Senator Manny Pacquiao. Pacquiao was joined by his vice presidential pick, House Deputy Speaker and Buhay Party List Representative Lito Atienza. The tandem is running under the PROMD party, which they say has alliances with PDP Laban. Antique Representative Loren Legarda and Sorsogon Governor Cheese Escudero are also among the first to file their COCs this morning at Sofitel, Manila, both of whom are seeking a senatorial comeback. Senator Rizzo Ontiveros is meanwhile seeking re-election for another term as guest candidate of the Liberal Party. On the local level, Valenzuela Mayor Rex Gatchalian, who is now in his second term as mayor, is eyeing to return to Congress as the city's first district representative. Pasig City Mayor Vico Soto, on the other hand, filed a COC for re-election. And those are the biggest stories this trading day, October 1st, 2021. Catch Businesswolrd live again Monday next week at 9:30 a.m. for the market open and 3:15 p.m. for the market close. I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe. Philippines, have a great weekend.